So everybody else is facing, almost everybody.
Thank you.
Is facing the back.
Right.
Or I guess like the stage area of the church. Like you're looking that way.
Guess where Larry's standing?
Yeah. So Dad would, during this era was on the stage in the middle at the back, looking the opposite direction.
Facing the church as Christ himself, the one slain before God. Your dad did have this complex, I think we've talked about it before. I don't know if you brought it up on here, that he would come into these services in all white. And
okay, I had not heard that.
Oh, you
not
had
every time.
I mean, I knew about the regal attire and the sword on the night of, what was it called?
Birth of King Jesus?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, but I did not know about the white clothing.
Yeah, he would come in with like a white linen shirt, and he was kind of like our savior.
The World Tomorrow. The Worldwide Church of God presents Herbert W. Armstrong.
I'm not here to cram anything down your throat. It will happen, and when it happens, you will know that God or Allah sent a messenger here to tell you this, because I am his servant.
He said, God is going to do a new thing among the people of God, even in the Crusade Church of God in Russellville, something like he has never done before.
And I'm here to bring you the truth, because you don't hear this from any other voice. No one else is telling you the things that God is telling you through me. He's speaking through me.
If we're going to be that great and mighty people, such as the world has never seen, nor shall again, that's a new thing. What good is it if you're comfortable and God isn't?
And there has been many, many false churches. Jesus said, I will build my church. He didn't say, I will build my churches. But there is a true church that is undeceived.
And that we can be a people where the blood of Christ can flow from us into their open wounds to heal them and bring them into the wedding chamber.
We had Sandy back. Neither of us cared for him at all, but just kidding.
It was a real struggle to have him back, but we need him. And
Just kidding.
No, of course, we're joking. We love Sandy, and we're so glad that he came back up for another visit and to come on the podcast. And we have the second part of our visit with him, so take a listen now. But he was facing us. Everyone's facing him. And he's the one man up there praying to everyone is facing this one way. Everyone, 28 members, however many. And then he's facing us.
On a stage.
On a stage.
And during the love move, there were people that also joined on the stage because, we were getting in a circle, that they would be facing a little bit the other way. You know what I mean? So that wasn't like it was at that era that it was just him. But back to the point you made about like his gaze, like Dad is not just like closed eyes in prayer with hands up. Like he's looking and like scanning everybody.
Yep.
I remember at the time when I was even like halfway, quote unquote, in it, like I'm like, I want to, God's doing something kind of mindset. Like you knew like Dad's watching everybody. And if something's not right, he will say something. And he did countless times. Like he'll notice something. Even sometimes if it's not there, like he's watching. So it was a very like surveillance by Dad/God during these Friday night praise and prayer services, which I didn't forget, but it's one of those things like you don't think about, I don't on a regular basis, but thinking back like, man, you were on edge. He's watching.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit like how we grew up where it's like the look on your face, even you had to be aware.
Oh,
it was that for everybody turned up to 11. Like you had to make sure that you're displaying that you are in it, or there's going to be some kind of issue.
Yeah. Well, talking about the spirit of pretense, the only demon that we ever faced off with.
So you did face off.
I
need to hear this story.
But this spirit of pretense was inhabiting my entire body during this love movement, if I can be honest about it. Because this was just me acting as if, faking it until I make it, because I didn't really want to be doing any of this stuff. And there were times that, my eyes were closed and I would peek my eyes to see where his gaze was at, because I wanted him to see a Sandy that had been pierced by this dart. It's just horse stuff.
Is this your admission that you were and maybe are possessed? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
But, really, I wanted him to be impressed with how much God was doing in my life and how not impressed, but maybe like I wanted him to know this arrow has pierced me. And here's the proof. Me going, oh! You're trying to get that picture.
I am.
I can do it again. Oh!
I got a video.
You got a video. It's so funny to stop the video and to look up. Yeah, but a lot of that was just for show. Because I guess I felt like if he knew, gosh, it's so hard to say, but if Larry was pleased with me, I could maybe be pleased with myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That's an important point that you're making, because he did place himself in the position of authority. You were going through him to get to God, and he might as well have been God. So if you were right with him, you were right. Right? I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, you could not be at odds in any way with Dad and feel like you were right with God.
No.
Right?
Well,
yeah,
I
that
mean,
was not going to happen.
didn't we grow up that way? I
Yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
was before he started the cult. I mean, if
That
you
was just a
weren't
carryover.
okay with Dad, like nothing was okay.
Yeah.
Nothing. Mom could get irritated at you or whatever, and you always knew you're still good with Mom.
Yeah.
But not with Dad.
To go back into where I was at during COVID, I remember getting into my own reading, my own...
Wait. You were possessed. What? Don't put that part away. You were saying pretense inhabited your body. What were you saying?
No, he's
Oh, because I was full of shit. I was just pretending.
Okay. I was like, I thought you actually thought maybe you were possessed at some point.
No, but it was just an act. It was just a bunch
Yeah.
just a bunch of bull stuff.
You can say it. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. What I'm trying to say here is during the COVID era, 3 or 4 months at home. Do you remember how long it was? Something like that.
I was trying to remember. Yeah, it wasn't a long time
Yeah.
for us, but yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 months less.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The faith became less of Larry's faith and it became more of mine. Way more of just my own walk with God. And I wasn't so much concerned with, I was still, but it wasn't, Larry was not my God as much anymore. Really, I remember it was just my own thing. It was quite nice, to be honest with you. That did start leading me down a road of resentment, I feel like, which is certainly where we left things, my relationship with his. I actually found out through a talk with another member in the church that he called me secular, I guess based on my behavior during a worship set, or I don't know what it was, but he scans the room and he looks at me and he sees Sandy's he's not on. So he must have gone back to go eat his own vomit or back into the world, as a dog goes back to his own vomit. So he just made the cavalier comment that I'm secular. He just made the judgment that I'm not in it anymore. I've dropped God. And so I did start kind of behaving that way. Certainly when we got back from COVID, I just kind of, it was a slow progression to just me being resentful towards him. And I could kind of see what he was doing. Like I said in the last one, like the mask came off and I don't want the mask to go on anymore. And I'm glad I saw it, but this still sucks. And I wish I would have had the balls to walk out of there.
What was it that kept you after you felt that difference from being in quarantine to like back in it again? Yeah, what kept you from leaving once you felt that difference between being in COVID and kind of having a weight lifted and then going back into it and not really having your heart in it anymore? What was it that kept you there rather than just peace out at that point?
The fear of man. the fear of my friends, who, some of my closest friends, but still I was worried about confrontation.
Had any of you spoken about it? Like, with your roommates, did you share any of your concerns?
Yeah, I shared some of how I was feeling with a close friend and roommate at the time. And this person is the kind of person that's very devil's advocate type of person. Like, I understand what you're thinking, but like, what about this, and which makes it tough sometimes to get things off your chest, because sometimes you don't want a devil's advocate. You just want to vent. Mm-hmm. So I realized, like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that with him, because it makes me feel guilty, because you're right. I am just blowing it. I have the wrong attitude. And I remember there was one day specifically after COVID that it was a Friday night service, music service. And I really didn't want to go. I just wasn't feeling it. And I have the right as a 38-year-old, 37-year-old man to say, you know what? I don't want to go tonight. But because of what I just mentioned before, everyone's watching, everyone's speculating. The decision was a lot more risky than just saying, I'm not gonna go tonight. I don't want to go. I was thinking about, like, what is this person going to think? Am I going to get a call from this person? And I ended up getting a call that was a little bit of a kind of a guilt trip, which I ended up going. It was kind of like, you need to go. Like, this is like you're in God's presence, that kind of thing. I was afraid of that, all of that. That's been a problem of mine just throughout life. That will hold back a person maybe more than anything else, just the fear of what other people think about you, which is tragic, which is a lot of successful people don't really give a shit what people think about them. So yeah, that's the obvious answer. Mm-hmm. But I really did start resenting your dad when we got back. I'm really like scoffing and like rolling my eyes at stuff he would say. And yeah, my attitude had definitely changed.
Was there any part of you at that time that still believed he was God's servant, God's prophet, the person that God was working through, or was that gone?
Wasn't gone, but I was questioning it now. Mm-hmm. But I still felt like, no, he seems like a genuine man. But no, I was questioning it, and I was mad at myself, because I'm somebody that does have a kind of a finely tuned BS meter. And I'm going, I don't even know how I got here. I changed my whole life to be here. I really just got fooled by this guy. But no, I didn't think that it was all BS at first. It started to get that way, definitely. I remember there was one message in particular where he was scolding us for, I guess, not suffering enough.
That could be a whole podcast episode in and of itself, just the whole concept of suffering in the church in general.
Well, suffering at this specific church was way more accentuated than most.
Oh, yeah.
We took pride in our suffering. We took pride in our cloaks of humility, and everyone suffers. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Hindu or just a regular atheist. Like, you can't get away from suffering. But to have the lens that you look at everything at through suffering is very damaging, especially for somebody like me who's just kind of a pessimist at nature.
And like, if you aren't suffering, then you're not doing something right.
Very possibly.
Like, if you feel happy. I mean, I felt some of that too in Worldwide and in Living. It's like, yes, they talk about joy, but the big thing I felt like for us was that we are sacrificing the now to obtain something greater later. And through the sacrificing comes suffering.
Well, if you're not suffering, then that means you don't have the devil's attention.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I remember that being a thing, which if you don't have the devil's attention, he's not worried about you. Like, then you're not doing anything that you should be doing. He's not worried about you at all. You might as well be on his team,
Well, something that it did for me too, the whole highlighting suffering, underscoring suffering so much, was that you basically made the agreement with yourself, this life is just about taking shit in the chest. And then one day when we get the golden paved streets, then I can have the life that was promised to me. But yeah, it was just like you'd have little moments of fun and laughter, but it was like at the end of the day, it was just life is shit. This life is shit. That's what it did for me. And I think that I recall a few other people saying like, yeah, it's just, we suffer and it was a really harmful mindset to be in with that.
Definitely.
That doctrine, the doctrine of suffering.
So we're back from COVID. You are secular Sandy, according to Dad.
Yeah.
There are a few months between us coming back to everything absolutely just imploding. Maybe talk a little bit about how that intensified to where you not only were just maybe resentful towards Dad and the church in general, but when did it turn and how did it turn for you to where you were in the mindset of like, I'm going, I'm out?
There was a moment specifically where I was so offended by his preaching that I feel like that changed the whole game for me. And the rest of the time that I was there, which I don't even recall how much longer it was, maybe 2 or 3 months after we had come back, that I just saw him as, I didn't respect him anymore. I just kind of started seeing him more as a charlatan. And the only reason I'm here is the fear of man. It was a message preached about how we are not suffering like this other brother that was a huge pivotal, like a milestone in our church, that God brought him to this church. This man from India who we'd all kind of seen was just kind of a charlatan that I think we spoke about in the last one. But he was giving a message about how this is somebody who actually cares about God, because he's doing this and that, and his money is stolen from him, and he's getting his legs beaten to a pulp, and you all are just shit. So I'd heard that one too many times, and I actually, it was the first time for me, walked away from the message and went and sat in the nursery, and I was just fuming. And from that moment on, I was just done. But I didn't have the balls to leave. Didn't have the balls to leave. And it is foggy. I guess I don't have a real good memory for these kinds of things. Kind of like I told you starting out, if you ask me what the movie was about, I can tell you if I liked it or not. But what it's about, I don't really know. It was foggy, really, really foggy. Maybe there's some trauma-induced stuff going on there that I'm just blocking it out without me even knowing. But I remember just sitting there going, what the hell am I even doing here? And the whole thing had changed. Your attitude was like that too. I remember we were just kind of like rolling our eyes at each other up there, filming the whole thing. And the attitudes had definitely changed. And I think your dad is smart enough to know, like, he read the temperature in the room again and saw, I'm losing this thing.
Do you feel like it was that way for most everyone? Or were there some people who came in like, yeah, let's pick up right where we left off?
Oh, good question.
Or was there like a general malaise amongst
I think
the people?
Overwhelmingly there was a malaise. Certainly with some of the people that I was close with, everyone was weird about going back. The people I was closest to, we were talking about our anxiety going into it, and the hugs, and like nobody wanted to do that again.
It was so refreshing to be away, which we all felt guilty about, I think. I felt that way where it's like, no, but like Liz and I talked about it, like the schedule where it's like, well, I don't have to be at this place on Friday night, because like you mentioned earlier, even if you felt that way prior, you could not be there. You were going to have problems. You couldn't take a weekend off. You couldn't say like, we're going to skip Friday night tonight. Like, I'm tired. It's just not, I need to get my rest for tomorrow. Like, no, you had to be there or it was going to be trouble.
Well, you guys even planned your vacations that way.
Oh, yep. Yeah. I remember the first vacation that Liz and I took where we were going to be gone on a Sabbath. Like, we were so nervous about that, and even made plans like, okay, we're going to watch the live stream in the car, and we'll make sure we're at this particular place where we have Wi-Fi and all. Like we wanted to make sure like that we had that planned, and that Dad and everybody knew, like, we're not just missing out. Like, we just happened to be on the road during this time, but we're going to be still joining, that kind of thing. Like, we were so concerned about that because of the, the temperature at that time.
Your dad, if nothing else, knows how to do fear-based Christianity really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember other people in the church going away, taking a trip to Hawaii and realizing that the fourth commandment says that you need to rest, but also it's a day to have a holy convocation, which means gather. So they went to a Seventh-day Adventist church, which was on the correct, genuine day, and they fulfilled the commandment. And it's just like this is kind of what the faith seems like it boiled down to at that church, was just following the damn rules. Mm-hmm. And man, that is just a brutal way to live for so long.
It's one thing to kind of, like you've mentioned, you were, and I was there at that point too, like, we're rolling our eyes, like, we know at this point that, I guess, whatever shine there was, like, that's gone now. We had that time away, which I've said it 100 times now, but I cannot stress how important that was. Like, we would not be sitting here talking right now if not for having a COVID break. I hate that COVID happened, but I'm glad that we were away from the church during those months, because it was so important for all of us.
Yeah.
But I think it's one thing to kind of to go from, you're in it and all this pressure, to you've got space, to you're back and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I kind of see through some of this. That's one thing. But I don't think that at that point that I thought that maybe I was not in the Dad is infallible anymore, which I think I had been mostly off of that for a while before. I think Michael and but we had talked about this a little bit, but our interactions with Dad, like, through the years, because Dad was particularly hard on the two of us boys. I think we kind of saw through some of that maybe before other people, just because of the exposure we had to Dad's psyche. But it was even more so after we came back from COVID. But it's one thing to get to that point, but to where you're saying, like, okay, I'm going to leave and change my life from everything I've known for all these years. Like, do you remember the moment or the time period where it went from, yeah, okay, this is ridiculous, to like, I got to get out? Like, do you remember how that happened?
Well, yeah, I do. I remember, and I am thankful that it happened, but still I'm embarrassed that I didn't just say, you know what, you're in control of your life. You have autonomy as a person that's almost 40. Leave. Forget about the fear of men. Leave. But it was when the church exploded. That whole thing is what facilitated my wanting to leave. So I remember being so relieved when I found out the texts that were going on between David Brown and your family, when all those personal meetings were happening. I don't think anyone knows about that yet, but
David spoke about it.
Okay. But when I found out that those things were happening, I was so relieved, because I felt like this is going to be it. We're going to be able to have our own church, start our own thing, be away from this person. But it wasn't until that happened. I wasn't going to be the one that was going to create waves or have, the gossip, gossip pools. I didn't want to be the target.
And also, I think it's important to remember that you moved to Russellville. So you left everything that you knew and the friends that you had there. And so all of the people in your life, in your social bubble, I guess, were part of this group. So that would make it even harder to leave. Even if your heart wasn't in it anymore, you're losing a lot.
That's a really excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. You're very right on that. Because at our church, we kind of taught that if somebody was going to leave, there is a scripture, I don't know where it is, but I believe Paul basically says, don't even regard them as a brother anymore.
Right.
If they move away from these teachings. And we had seen that played out with several different people that had left and that had become quote unquote enemies of the church. You're not to speak of them. You still pray for them and do all these things, but
but
you're
there's
right.
the whole a little leaven leavens the whole lump, and the leaven is sin. And if you associate with someone who is out in the world, they're going to infect you, so to speak.
Bad company corrupts good morals.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I was definitely thinking, I don't want to lose Matt.
Right.
I don't want to lose Jen. I don't want to lose Michael. I don't want to lose these people. So,
and he also would use that scripture, what fellowship has Christ with Baal?
Right.
And anyone not in the church was associated with Baal. They were in that category, which was a pagan god. People did sacrificing to, and so the imagery with that was really dark and scary. And so I think that's part of what was used in the arsenal of, this is why we can't talk to anyone who leaves the group. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then he would also say, as for me and my house,
Yep.
we will serve the Lord.
Yep.
And if you weren't in his house or church, so to speak, then you weren't serving the Lord. And so why would you be, interacting with someone who was not of like mind?
True. Even though the example of Jesus that we have that we can read about was like, he was hanging out with all kinds of.
Yeah, they ignore that part.
They ignore that part, don't they? I mean, he was like, the Pharisees were constantly saying, like, you hanging out with these losers and those losers?
Right.
Yeah, I guess the rules changed after he was crucified. And then, I don't know. We do that. Like, I think all brands of Christianity pick and choose what they want to do,
Also, one of the hallmarks of a cult by definition is that there's no good reason to leave. And I mean, if that doesn't sum up Crusade Church, I don't know what does. It's amazing. Like, there is no good or valid reason to leave. If you leave, something was wrong. You were secular. You wanted this. You wanted that. You wanted worldly things and not what God was going to be doing here specifically. So there's that pressure for everybody to where that's what's going to be said about you, especially if you're leaving and you're leaving alone. So like for the people who left before the church really imploded, like there's some credit due to those people because they knew like, well, I'm going to be, people can pat me on the back and say they love me, but like, I'm going to be ostracized. They knew that.
That's true.
So again, like shout out to those people who left before. And I had the fortune of when we left, knowing that at least there was a decent subset of people who were important to me that were going to leave too. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen with Mom, but still, like I knew, okay, I've got these people that I really care about that I know feel the same way. So that was extremely helpful for me. I think it would have taken a while longer for Liz and I to leave if not for that. The exit would have taken a little bit more time. But yeah, for the people who didn't have that, like they knew what was coming for them. So shout out to them. Kudos.
And even if you could leave a group and still maintain some semblance of friendship with people, it's nearly impossible to thrive under circumstances of which people are thinking that you are now secular, you've gone to the world, you don't care about God, you care about these worldly, earthly things more. And so you're just kind of like this lower being, and you should just be grateful that they're talking to you at all. I mean, that's how I've felt. And I just thought, yeah, no, thank you. Like I will make friends with people who don't think I'm a condemned person.
Right. Or you're thinking that you're a project.
Right.
to
Of
get you back
course.
in.
Of
It's like,
course.
come on with this bullshit.
That's
Of
not a
course.
good feeling.
No.
Oh, that's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And they have that ulterior motive, even if they're not bringing it up every time. It's like, they want to say the right thing that brings you
Exactly.
back into the fold.
God, if you could give me something to say, the right thing to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Ooh.
The other difficult thing about me leaving, because I'm one of the members that I actually kind of envy the people that were born into it. I don't, but at the same time, like, you didn't know any better. For a 30-year-old person to choose to come into the cult is a little bit more embarrassing coming out of it. So when I can look back with retrospect, I see that's part of what the latency period was for me. Coming out of the church was realizing, like, I actually made this decision and I changed my whole life for this. So I didn't know at the time, but I mean, maybe deep down, I kind of knew I'm going to have to deal with some really uncomfortable things about the choices that I've made. I live in Russellville, Arkansas now because of this little church. And I like Russellville, Arkansas, but it's not the greatest place on earth.
It's not the mecca of entertainment. and
No,
food.
it's not.
No offense I know we have lots of listeners in Russellville. It's not my favorite place.
No.
But if you like it, to each their own.
And
I enjoyed growing up there.
Yeah.
You did.
I do not like going back, or I didn't for years if we ever had to travel through, because it was just memories,
Right.
and I would always feel like kind of heartsick.
Yeah.
So I have this like association with it. So even now when I go back, it feels weird as I'm exiting. It's like, back to the scene of the crime kind of thing. It wasn't a bad place to raise a family, I guess.
Yeah, there are a lot of positives. You definitely feel safe there. That's nice. The only reason I'm there is because my parents are there.
Right.
That's
and
it.
they're there because you're
They're
there.
there because I'm there. Oh, my mom she'll make comments she'll say, damn, Larry, why did you, because it could have
There's
been anywhere.
no good place to go eat.
Yeah, like I couldn't have found a church that was in Rome or
a
Portugal.
or a church that was a wet county.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a town that was in a wet county.
Holy freaking smokes.
So when you found out that there were these talks between David Brown and the family, like, did you know right then this is the beginning of the end, or did it take a little bit before you realized, okay, they're actually exiting and now I can exit and not be alone? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I remember when David decided, I think he had left maybe a month or two before everyone else. He was gone immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Gone, never saw him again at that building. And then everyone was trying to figure out, what are they going to do? I was talking with a member and basically talking about drafting my letter. Like, I'm done. I've got till it hadn't been decided unanimously, like we're all leaving yet, but I had the peace of mind to go, I'm out. But the way it worked out was not like that. It all crumbled in a different way, a little bit quicker than we all thought. So it all just kind of happened at once. I think there were several people that actually drafted their letters to send to him, which, is a courtesy, but not really necessary. But I certainly have one drafted. I believe that another friend of mine in the church had one drafted. But the way it worked out, nobody even had to send them because it all just crumbled. And your dad was the one that said, almost like effective immediately, we're done with the church in its current state. So it was kind of like, oh, cool, we're all done.
You're off the hook.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah. The church kind of breaking apart, I think the weekend that occurred, you were not in state, right? I think you were out of town. But let's just kind of go through that in a little bit more detail of kind of what that means when it broke apart. As you had mentioned, David had already left. We'd had a few other people that leading up to that had left. I think Blake, who has been on the podcast, and Sarah, our sister, that they left, was it a couple weeks before that? I believe that it was August 15th, I think is the date, August 15th, 2020, that Liz and I sent a message to Dad and posted on like the church group page that we were leaving. But again, as I'd mentioned earlier, that wasn't just us on our own. Like, we knew that there was a group of people that felt the same way we did. So from what I recall, like, we sent the message and you had something drafted. I know a couple other people had letters drafted. Like, that was kind of the plan. Like, we're just going to all make our exit. I believe that night, which was a Saturday night, we had services that day. We had recorded, video for the sermon and the sermonettes and all that stuff. And as was our custom, like, I went to my office and edited those videos and got them ready and uploaded them to YouTube so that part would be done. And I already had a message drafted to send to Dad and to Mom. And I had a little post drafted to put into the church group. And we copy and pasted from our, phone notes and sent the message and posted this thing. And then we got in the car and went home. And I think there was a lot probably that I'm not even aware of that was going on at Mom and Dad's house during that time. But within a few hours, Dad called me, and it was the weirdest phone conversation I've ever had, I think, with anybody, certainly with him. But he called me, and it was just a very matter of fact, like, well, I guess the church is done, and so here's what we're going to do kind of thing. And I remember he asked me at one point in the phone call, like, well, what are you going to do? Like, go to another church? Like, he said it laughing. And I just said, I don't know. And it felt like, it's probably 30 seconds, but it felt like 5 minutes of silence where he didn't know what to say. And I didn't have anything else to say. I just said, yeah, I don't know. And then just long pause. And then he said, okay. And then that was the end of the phone call. And I think that night, and maybe you remember, is that the night I think that he posted that he was stepping down? Like, maybe your recollection, what happened after that last Sabbath evening?
Well, because I was gone, I don't quite remember, but I was being kept in the loop through text messages and also Skype type calls. I am so confused about when all that happened, because I felt like, I guess I must have spoken to you guys like on a Sunday or a Monday after more shit had happened. Because the last service happened, you did everything you just mentioned, and then he gave the call Saturday night. Because I remember getting on a Skype call with everyone, and I was being brought into the loop about what was happening. He made this offer to well, actually, I could see what was happening because of the church Facebook page.
Yeah. Let's get into that real quick. I had kind of slipped my mind. So I think that night, Dad posted in the church group that he was stepping down.
Right.
And then within like 24 hours or less, he reversed course.
Right.
And then was making some kind of offer like towards the people who had left, which I think like there were some people that had properly like said like, hey, we're leaving. But then there were a lot of people that I think were in the limbo area where Dad didn't know if they were leaving or staying, but like there were a lot of people that like once Dad said like, yeah, we're folding up the church, they were like, cool, like we're out, and they were never going to go back. But he didn't know that for sure. So I think during that time was trying to seek out like, okay, who do I still kind of have that might come back? So he had kind of said, all right, I'm stepping down, we're folding up the church. And then within 24 hours, like, oh, psych, no, we're not. And then was kind of trying to seek out like, okay, who's with me, who's not. And then what you were just talking about was, I think, an offer to some of us who had left About sharing the church building?
Sharing the
Yes.
church building.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't really exactly remember how that went, except you have this group of people that were obstinate and stubborn. That's the impression you got. The people that were going to leave, which was me, most of your family, except for your mom at that point. The ones that really liked each other were stubborn and obstinate, most likely. But he offered the church to us to rent so that we could all kind of be peaceful and, still kind of show that we love each other, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was like they would have services at a certain time on Saturday, and then we would have the church.
Right.
And never the two shall cross kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
we can just share this building, which my perspective then and now is that was a matter of practicality for Dad, that he's looking at things and saying, okay, I can't pay for this building.
Right.
So I got to pitch this to the people who left so that they'll pay to rent it, or I'm going to lose this building or other things. Like, there's no way that everything I'm doing can be covered money-wise. So I think that, I know that's what was happening.
Absolutely. Because the building is so important. And, you just, if you're a Christian and you're, loving God, you got to go to that building.
Well, and
so important.
too, I don't think we had mentioned this, and there's not a whole lot to tell, but that wasn't just, hey, there's this church building for sale, let's buy it. Of course, like everything else with Dad, it was a major thing, and God orchestrated it, and that particular building and all this stuff. So that wasn't just a building, like it was divinely provided. So he wasn't just gonna let that.
Well, that's obvious because he let the house go.
Yes, yeah.
But
instead of letting the building go.
If God orchestrated that whole thing, he really picked a major shithole. Place was a dump.
Kinda.
The first time I walked in there from visiting, when I was there from California to visit, I thought, oh, geez, it just had this feeling. I'm the kind of person that's really sensitive to my environment, lighting and whatever it is, tile, fake wood paneling. And it just had just a really crappy feeling. So, if God orchestrated that whole thing, dang. Oof.
But it was
cloak of humility, remember?
That's right.
The church had a permanent cloak of humility.
It sure did.
But I think we'll probably save the aftermath for another episode. But there's plenty more of kind of what happened after everybody left, and Dad's kind of trying to step down and then backtrack on that and restart the church. There's a lot to go into that, but I think we've covered the main parts of the love move, our COVID break, coming back. Things are not the same. People leaving. Of course, there are plenty of details that we will get into with other people's individual stories. Like Liz and I will talk about that, I think, here very soon. But I think we've covered the main parts. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover? Sandy, did you have any closing thoughts about your time in the Crusade Church?
Closing thoughts. I wrote down that, it ended right in the middle of COVID. And that's a time when everyone was saying this is the most miserable time of my life. Everyone's life was changed, mostly in a negative way. But I remember saying to people, this has been the best year of my life. It really was, because I was free from this place. So if that's not a powerful statement, COVID, the year that shut down, people's lives forever, the way that we knew life forever, because everything has been kind of changed now. I mean, the Walmart's closed at 11 forever. I know it's a small thing, but it changed the whole world. And just that's a powerful statement to say that was the best year of my life, knowing that I was free to leave the Crusade Church.
If you like this episode of The Cult Next Door, please leave us a positive review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new episodes.